Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown, looking at the tournament that is currently live over at Clan Community. In this battle, Irongeneral takes the Vampire Counts to battle against ShetlandApache's Wood Elves. If you're interested in a great Total War community that constantly has great competitive play, make sure you check out the link to Clan Community in the description below. The Vampire Counts are led by Manfred, who comes in with the Curse of Undeath, Life Leeching, the Hunger, Sword of Unholy Power, Spirit Leech, the Fate of Buna, Invocation of Nehek, Raise Dead, Master of the Black Arts, and Red Fury. His White King strides in alongside him to provide melee support, and the army itself has 2 units of zombies and 2 units of skeleton warriors to absorb the inevitable ranged fire and potentially bog down enemy troops. 4 units of Graveguard and the Stearnsmen form the main line that should have little trouble against most Wood Elf infantry units, while the 2 units of Black Knights with lances and barding and the 2 units of Direwolves will look to shut down enemy range support and cause chaos by coming in from multiple directions. Finally, the Mortis Engine will look to keep the army alive, cause a great deal of damage in combat, and of course, cause trickle damage to nearby units as well. The Wood Elves are led by a very inventive Glade Lord atop her Forest Dragon with a Potion of Foolhardiness, a Potion of Toughness, the Arrow of Kronos, and Prey of Anathrema. The Waystalker comes in with the Arrow of Kronos as well, while the Spellslinger of Shadows comes in the air with Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, the Enfeebling Foe, and Smoke and Mirrors, whose 6% speed buff is going to make a big difference for the strategy at play. 2 units of Deepwood Scouts with Swift Shiver Shards are going to be able to sneak up on the enemy and fire when ready, and the 2 units of Wild Riders will try to screen enemy cavalry, while the 2 units of Glade Riders with Hagbane Tips will look to slow down enemy advances so they can be peppered with more arrows. Hawk Riders will provide range support with mobility and decent melee capabilities as well, and finally, a Forest Dragon will look to cause some serious armor-piercing damage and provide poison support to slow the enemy approaches down as well, while also causing some serious attribute damage in melee. Alright, as always, we're going to start with a conversation about deployment, and while the Vampire Counts do have some aces up their sleeves, you can see that the Wood Elves get very inventive from the get-go. So, let's start with the Vampire Counts. Up front, we do have these 2 units of zombies, again, as fodder troops, eating some initial charges, preventing a straight engagement from the Wood Elves, and also eating some initial fire. Meanwhile, the Skeleton Warriors over here and here, with their shields, also acting as fodder troops, able to get some initial charges, eat them rather, and eat some range fire as well with their shields. Hold the enemy in place so that this main line can actually make its moves. And the main line consists of all the Graveguard, of course, as well as the Stearnsmen in the center. So very strong center. As you can see, Manfred is also right behind them alongside the White King here, and the Mortis Engine hanging around in the center as well. But of course, all 3 of these guys can move wherever they are needed and provide some support. Ideally, though, the Mortis Engine will have a central position to provide its support both in healing friendly units and damaging enemy units. Meanwhile, all the way up front here, you can see we do have these Direwolves just here to scout nice and early, keep them on the ridge so that, as you can see from the minimap as well, almost the entire battlefield is revealed and there's nothing sneaking up on them. Great move there. These guys are fast. They'll be able to get out of troubles right away. Meanwhile, we do have the Black Knights with their lances and barding over here, and this unit of Black Knights with lances and barding, and the Direwolves over here as well. These guys will look to either come in from the trees over here, get into the rear lines of the Wood Elves, or provide some side and rear charge support, while these guys over here as well providing the same thing, screening any approaches from here, getting into the enemy from this angle, potentially to shut down range support, and of course with the Direwolves as well, able to close gaps very quickly. Now, with all of that said, let's take a look at the Wood Elves again. Very different sort of layout over here. So let's just read this from left to right to keep it simple. We've got a Waystalker already behind enemy lines, able to push forward and snipe away, potentially take out some high-value targets such as a Mortis Engine or enemy leadership. Then, over here, we do have these 2 Glade Riders with their Hagbane Tips just over the ridge, able to get some good vision here, see what the enemy is up to, and in case and when the enemy gets baited to actually chase after these Glade Riders over here, whether it's with some Direwolves and Black Knights or if it's some Blood Knights giving chase, we do have these Wild Riders tucked away in the trees over here, able to push in and intercept that advance while the enemy is actually being attacked by poison damage as well. So, great placement there, working these guys nicely together, while in the center here, we do have the massive Air Force. We've got the Spellslinger of Shadows, the Glade Lord herself, or Glade Lady, I suppose, the Forest Dragon, and the Hawk Riders too. So, Air Force contingent over there, able to quickly push to any side wherever they might be needed to provide some support, and over here, obviously, we have the Deepwood Scouts with their Swift Shiver Shards, again able to push up to the top of the ridge, get some shots off from the get-go. Ideally the Vampire Counts will be pushing this way to chase after these guys with a couple of units and maybe get some side shots into the inevitable Graveguard that are going to be on the field. So again, very interesting layout and some cleverness from both sides of the field. Let's see how it all breaks down. And of course, right away you'll see the Direwolves over here pulling back to get out of that situation, and the Deepwood Scouts here getting some shots in, not entirely accurate, as the direwolves are able to run away, scurry away pretty quickly. But you'll notice also we have the Glade Riders over here pushing forward to get some early shots in, as well as the entire Air Force, and these guys down here, the Black Knights, as well as the direwolves, respond right away. So great job here, pulling these Glade Riders away instantaneously, seeing these guys advancing, and opening some shots off against these direwolves to actually slow them down even further, to make sure there's no way they're going to close that gap. So great targeting there, and great reaction as well from both generals. At the same time, you'll see we do have these Wild Riders poking out of the trees as well to intercept this potential advance, to intercept this potential aggression, rather, and the Spellslinger of Shadows does push forward and hit the direwolves with the Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, while they get shot up by some of those Glade Riders as well. So great work there, slowing these guys down to make sure they're not able to close the gap, and also causing a tremendous amount of damage. Already at about 50% health, these guys are extremely dangerous for the Wood Elves because they can come in from multiple directions. It can cause a lot of chaos among Wood Elf lines, and so it's important to take care of them. And clearly the Vampire Counts feel the same way as well, hitting these guys with Invocation of the Heck, trying to keep them alive for later use in the battle, because again, if these guys work together, if all the cavalry comes together and comes in from multiple sides, they can cause a lot of trouble for the Wood Elves. Now you'll see the Glade Riders up here just getting some pot shots off at these zombies, doing a little bit of work, maybe some ammunition wasted there actually, while the Air Force pushes forward alongside the Waste Stalker to take care of some higher value targets perhaps. We do have Manfred and a Mortis Engine, of course the White King as well naturally, but enemy leadership and a Mortis Engine are always extremely threatening. Meanwhile, the Vampire Counts themselves are pushing to the top of the ridge because, of course, if they can take care of enemy ground units, the battle's basically done, because in terms of the Air Force, apart from the Forest Dragon and of course the Glade Lord, when she lands she'll be able to cause some decent damage, they'll have to be on the ground, otherwise they will be routing. So taking care of enemy ground forces is absolutely essential in a situation like this. Now you'll see, again as I mentioned, targeting some more high value targets. The Mortis Engine does get hit by the Prey of Anathrema, keeping it in place, reducing whatever missile resistance it does have, and opening shots off with the Hawk Riders, the Forest Dragon, as well as the Waste Stalker over here as the Waste Stalker slowly creeps up. You'll see doing a decent amount of damage, of course. There comes the first arrow of Kurnos, and the Glade Lord over here hit by Spirit Leech, so great use of magic there as well, just to reduce some health, get some early damage in, good targeting for sure. And another arrow of Kurnos comes in, and look at that, the Mortis Engine at half health already. The battle has barely begun, eaten a lot of damage. Another Invocation of the Heck necessary, forcing Manfred to pop Master of the Black Arts to keep his Winds of Magic active. And at the same time, you'll see we have some advances going on as these Black Knights push out of the trees over here alongside these direwolves, sort of pushing over the ridge, trying to close the gap on these Deepwood Scouts. And it's very important to have multiple units pushing in from multiple directions to actually close these guys off and shut them down. But of course the Wood Elves see that happening right away, so not only do they send their Glade Riders down here into some aggressive, a bit more of an aggressive position, but they also pull their Wild Riders back to protect these guys. And you'll see that motion is already taking place as the Vampire Counts are trying to get aggressive here. And the Mortis Engine at the same time, Invocation of the Heck has done basically nothing, as a lot of that damage is still coming in. And meanwhile, the Black Knights over here hit by Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. Again, good use of magic there, just trying to cause damage to some units that might cause a lot of trouble down the line. And up here as well, you'll see the direwolves really closing that gap there, so the Spellslinger of Shadows does push up alongside these Wild Riders just to close that gap and make sure these guys are not able to actually get in to the Deepwood Scouts. Meanwhile, a bit more magic going on down here. You'll see the Glade Lord hit by a Spirit Leech, once again causing a little bit of damage there. Well picked. And the Hawk Riders actually hit by the Fate of Buna. So again, good target selection there. Hawk Riders have, more entities in the unit, so you want to target that with something like the Fate of Buna, and the Spirit Leech, of course, works best against single entity units. So trying to spread some of that damage against extremely dangerous enemy units. Meanwhile, up top here, you'll see the Spellslinger of Shadows and the Wild Riders kick in a full gear, forcing the direwolves to pull back, and the Black Knights with lances and barding, again, a little hesitant now to advance that way. Meanwhile, the direwolves down here taking some shots from these Glade Riders, while up front now focusing on Manfred himself. The Glade Lord has taken a decent amount of damage, so have the Hawk Riders. Between Spirit Leeches and the Fate of Buna, those spells can do a lot of damage, so in some trouble here, but of course that range fire is scaring Manfred off right now, while the Wild Riders up here are able to shut down these direwolves once and for all. Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma wasted there, unfortunately, as those direwolves were already crumbling, so a little bit of a mistake there. But while focusing on that part, the Wood Elves kind of forsake these Glade Riders down here, and you can see these Black Knights alongside the direwolves closing that gap, and they get a lot of damage in on the charge. Of course, look at how quickly this unit of Glade Riders is basically willing to give up. These guys have taken a lot of hurt, and meanwhile we have another Spirit Leech going down on the Glade Lord. So again, great use of magic, trying to cause that pain, while in response we have the Prey of Anathrema dropping on these Black Knights, allowing these Glade Riders to pull away. So another good use of the Prey of Anathrema there, making sure that these guys are able to escape in a very precarious situation there, but just getting out by the skin of their teeth. Meanwhile, Manfred again hit by by a lot of arrows there, pops Master of the Blackguards to bring some more magical capabilities back, while the Glade Lord actually pops the Potion of Toughness. Very low on health, so important to do that right now. Meanwhile, you'll see we do have the Wild Riders over here preparing for some rear charges, potentially able to have control of the battlefield. As the Black Knights and the Dire Wolves, the only fast-moving units that the Vampire Counts have, are all the way back here, the Wood Elves can be relatively confident that they have reign of this half of the battlefield, which allows them to, you know, pick out some Graveguard or some zombies. So feeling a little confident over there. Meanwhile, down here, you'll see these Direwolves just trying to close the gap to the Waystalker alongside these two units of Black Knights, because the Waystalker, unfortunately, just a little bit too adventurous there and in a very dangerous situation now. So trying to pull the Waystalker away, using some poison to try and slow down the enemy, but unfortunately that is just not enough, and the Waystalker is going to be in some serious trouble. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see Manfred has taken a lot of hurt. Basically a quarter of health left, maybe a fifth. A volley comes in from these Glade Riders down here, and these guys are in a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, you'll see we do have the Deepwood Scouts as well, pushing in, trying to get some range support into these Graveguard. They can get some rear shots in, of course, and that'll do a lot of work because the shields only face forward naturally. Meanwhile, Manfred in a very dangerous situation as the Glade Lord does come down. Focus fire, and there goes Manfred right away, taking care of all. Melkot's Mystifying Miasma on these Black Knights here, trying to close the gap onto these Glade Riders, doing a lot of damage again. Poison slowing these guys down, and of course, Melkot's Mystifying Miasma also slowing them down by 24%, and all of that ranged fire just dropping these guys right away. Great job there, great micromanagement. Meanwhile, over here with the Waystalker again, just sort of forsaken. Mortis Engine hunting the Waystalker down, causing a lot of damage, while the Direwolves and the Black Knights as well giving chase. So again, the biggest problem that the Vampire Counts have right now is perhaps their use of cavalry. They're a little bit too focused. All of their fast-moving units are focusing on a single Waystalker down here that's already being severely damaged by the Mortis Engine. It would have been much better right now to actually pull 3 of these units down this way and try and shut down these Deepwood Scouts, or perhaps pull them up this way and scare off these Glade Riders to prevent some of that ranged fire that's coming in right now, some of that trickle damage that's being forced upon the Vampire Counts. Unfortunately, they're focusing on a unit that's largely already been taken care of and can be chased by just one of them. So that's really going to cause the Vampire Counts a lot of trouble if they're not able to properly use their mobility here. Now you'll see, of course, these Glade Riders getting a little adventurous, really desperately trying to keep the Waystalker alive, but of course, the Vampire Counts insistent on finishing the Waystalker off and completely shattered there. And again, now's the time to disengage and pull elsewhere. Meanwhile, these Wild Riders back here were able to just dive in and take care of these zombies, bogged down a little bit, but again, good to just shut down enemy support. These guys instantaneously made to disintegrate, and the Wild Riders are able to disengage while the Vampire Counts are trying to give chase here. Meanwhile, you'll see the Waystalker allowed to leave alive but shattered, so getting away. Mortis Engine very badly hurt by all of that range support, and meanwhile we'll have another Melkot's Mystifying Miasma going down on this unit of Black Knights just to make sure they're not able to close the gap on the Glade Riders down here, so great work there. The Mortis Engine, meanwhile, getting focused down on, crumbling as well, and completely exploding and shattering. Meanwhile, the Prey of Anathrema does go down, slowing down the stronger unit of Black Knights there, making sure they're not able to close the gap either. These guys are still able to move for some reason. That's okay, though. But yeah, great work. They're holding the cavalry back, and you'll see the poison just slowing these Direwolves down as well. So between Melkot's Mystifying Miasma, the Prey of Anathrema, and of course the poison itself, doing a lot of work to slow down the advantage that the threat, rather, that the Vampire Counts present. At the same time, these Wild Riders now, again, free to just control the battlefield, do whatever they'd like, and now deciding to charge in and actually shut down enemy cavalry once and for all. These guys are able to push in. The Direwolves already disintegrating, or crumbling rather, made to disintegrate almost instantaneously when that charge comes in. The Black Knights don't really stand a chance either, falling apart with some great charges with some Wild Riders. So people tend to underestimate what Wild Riders can do, but they're a great cleanup crew, just like they're doing right now, cleaning these guys up and able to actually pull away. Unfortunately, mistimed there, allowed to get charged in by these Black Knights, but just barely so. They do a good job of pulling away, and there you have it. An enfeebling foe goes down on the Black Knights just to make sure that any damage they might cause is completely minimized. Their melee attack and melee defense is completely reduced. Unfortunately, though, the rest of the Vampire Count army is present, so it's a little bit riskier to send these Wild Riders in to take care of the Black Knights. But good thinking there, reduces the amount of damage they could have done, but they still did a fair amount. Now, the poison damage continues to trickle through, and from multiple directions we do have that range fire coming in. The Hawk Riders opening some shots off, getting some damage into these massive clumps, so this is actually an ideal target for the Wood Elves to open shots off into. Unfortunately, some shots being wasted on these zombies from these Hagbane tips. A little wasteful there, but it's okay. You'll see the Forest Dragon now getting really adventurous, pushing in, trying to get some damage in, and again, these guys just decide to clump in on the Forest Dragon, but the Forest Dragon, of course, between poison and that severe, significant, rather, armor-piercing damage is going to do a lot of work. Meanwhile, we have Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma going down on this unit of Skeleton Warriors here, just trying to cause some damage, trying to shut that unit down as quickly as possible, and we have charges coming in from all directions. So, great movement there. The Forest Dragon, I think this was the plan here. The Forest Dragon got all of the units to focus in on the center, allowing the Wild Riders, the Hawk Riders, and everything else to come in from the sides and the rears to cause more morale damage. So very well played there if that was the thinking. Range fire coming in as well, and look at the amount of morale damage happening in this clump. Some of these units are starting to crumble almost right away. Great work there, absolutely lovely to see that much inventiveness. Again, holding these guys in place, dragging them to the center with the Forest Dragon and just getting rear charges all around the circle. Wild Riders again pulling away into some safety. Of course, that's how they're best used, and coming back in for a cycle charge, pushing in, I think, to these zombies here just to get them to crumble, and we have the Enfeebling Foe going down on these Black Knights as well, just to make sure they're not able to get any damage in, and they're falling apart a lot quicker as well with their 0 melee defense. And again, a melee charge coming in from these Glade Riders as well. That morale damage, that side charge is going to do a lot of work, while these Wild Riders up here pulled away, and that range fire continues to trickle in. And look at the number of units crumbling in there. I think we've got 3 units crumbling in there. That range fire is doing a lot of morale damage. Obviously, we've got another charge coming in from these Wild Riders. The Forest Dragon and the Glade Lord both in the center, risking their lives a little bit, but pinning these guys in place, allowing these rear and side charges to come in. And the Vampire count is just falling apart, unsure what to do. Manfred has left the building, so there's little in the form of morale support or leadership. These guys are just falling apart. And you'll see the Wild Riders are eating a lot of damage. This is still a dangerous situation for the Wood Elves. Look at how much damage the Hawk Riders have taken in melee. Of course, they're not meant to be in melee. They're just decent in it. The Wild Riders as well, needing to cycle charge, need to be managed very well to make sure they stay alive, and doing so quite well. In the middle, we do still have the White King as well, getting a lot of work done, but again, it's not like this is a safe situation for the Wood Elves, but they're very well managed here, very well timed, making sure the charge bonuses are fully used before diving, or rather pulling out and then diving back in, and that range support doing so much morale damage, so much work from the Deepwood Scouts right now. It's absolutely wonderful to see that range fire coming in. These guys were basically reserved for this use at the end, and meanwhile, the Spellsinger of Shadows as well, diving in for some melee action, just trying to shut the vampire counts down once and for all, while the Glade Lord, you can see, is flying off in the distance here, trying to keep herself safe and alive. Very good idea there, because if leadership was to fall right now, the battle might actually go completely sideways, but more units just crumbling and disintegrating in the center there. The Glade Lord actually decides to come in for another charge from the sides, for more rear charges from these Wild Riders, and just like that, you'll see, though the Sternsmen are able to stay alive with their regenerative capabilities, most of the vampire count units are just falling apart. And we're just going to kick it up a notch here. I think it's pretty predictable what's about to happen as as these guys come back for another charge. We have the Prey of Anthrema going down just to make sure a little bit more damage is trickling through. Full surrounds are wonderful, especially when there is no Invocation of Nehek to keep these guys alive. Slowly but surely, it's all over for the vampire counts, and a valiant defeat. Absolutely have to agree with that. A most valiant effort by Iron General there. The Wood Elves used their air superiority very well, simply circumventing the entire vampire count army to pick off the ever-threatening Mortis engine before engagements could begin, and removing Manfred nice and early. Magic was well used on both sides of the field. Manfred left the field a little earlier, but both armies used magic very well, and the Wood Elves did well to protect their Deepwood Scouts early on, though they were a little wasteful with some ammunition wasted on, zombies. Misstep early on nearly lost the Wood Elves a large part of their army and the Glade Riders, but again, good use of abilities kept them in the battle, safe and alive. The Vampire Count Cavalry tried to do too many things at once, not allowing any real chaos to set in, and instead giving the Wood Elves every opportunity to respond. And they severely underestimated the strength of the Wild Riders, I think, especially when paired with those Hagbane tips. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, and keep sending in those battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn. I've said it countless times, and it's always nice to see such great battles from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.